U.S. President Donald Trump says Russia's Putin would accept European peacekeeping troops as part of a deal to end the war in Ukraine. The United Nations General Assembly rejects a U.S. resolution that urges an end to the war in Ukraine that fails to mention Russia's aggression.
Pope Francis remains in critical condition and has shown early signs of kidney insufficiency as the 88-year-old pontiff battles pneumonia and a complex lung infection.
U.S. President Donald Trump says Russia's President Vladimir Putin would accept European peacekeeper troops in Ukraine as part of a deal to end the war. He made the comments as he hosted French President Emmanuel Macron at the White House to discuss the ongoing conflict.
Yeah, he will accept that. I've asked him that question. You talked to him? I've asked him that question. Because he's not, look, if we do this deal, he's not looking for more war. He doesn't mind, but I've specifically asked him that question. He has no problem with it.
Thank you, Donald.
Speaking at a joint press conference after their closed-door meeting, Macron said European nations are ready and willing to deploy troops to guarantee Ukraine's security.
Mais qui sont, si je puis dire, des déploiements de force de garantie. Elles seront, par définition, limitées, mais elles marquent une solidarité. J'ai échangé, je vous l'ai dit, avec tous nos alliés. Il y a plusieurs pays, européens et non européens, qui sont prêts à participer à cet effort.
The French leader noted that Europe must learn and not repeat mistakes of the past. He revealed that the Kremlin had betrayed their trust in 2014 and violated a negotiated peace deal as it proceeded to annex the Ukrainian peninsula of Crimea.
In 2014, our predecessors negotiated peace with President Putin. But because of the lack of guarantees, and especially security guarantees, President Putin violated this peace. So this is why being strong and having deterrence capacities is the only way to be sure it will be respected.
Trump maintains that Putin is serious about securing a peace deal and bringing the war to a close. He added that he believes a deal can be finalized and implemented within weeks.
Voting has been completed.
The United Nations General Assembly refused to adopt a U.S. resolution that urges an end to the war in Ukraine. Washington's proposal failed to make mention of Russia's aggression in its invasion that violates the UN Charter. 3 European proposed amendments were made to the U.S.-backed resolution before it was voted on, adding language that firmly acknowledges Moscow's aggression.
Today we mark the 3 years since the beginning of Russia's illegal and unprovoked full-scale invasion of Ukraine. We reiterate our resolute condemnation of this flagrant violation of international law. The General Assembly has demanded an early end to this war of aggression and a just, lasting and comprehensive peace in Ukraine in line with the UN Charter.
Russia voted against the resolution, claiming that Europe did not acknowledge the root causes of the conflict, leading to another anti-Russia piece of paper.
К сожалению, в отсутствие нашей поправки о необходимости искоренения коренных причин конфликта, а также после принятия европейских поправок, его суть оказалась полностью извращена.
The U.S. also voted against the amendments to their proposal, which passed with 93 votes in favor, 18 against, and 65 abstentions. Washington also put forward its resolution to the legally binding UN body, the Security Council, which did pass.
This resolution puts us on the path to peace. It is a first step, but a crucial one of which we should all be proud. Now we must use it to build a peaceful future for Ukraine, Russia, and the international community.
The resolution received 10 votes in favor at the 15-member council. The 5 abstentions came from France, the United Kingdom, Denmark, Greece, and Slovenia.
Top EU diplomats said Ukraine's accession to the bloc is an integral part of lasting peace. They were speaking in Kyiv at a summit marking the 3rd anniversary of the Russian invasion.
From the European Commission, Ukraine's accession to the European Union will be the most important security guarantee for the future of Ukraine.
EU leaders rallied around Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky after widespread dismay that Donald Trump had dispatched top aides for preliminary talks with Russian officials, without Ukrainian or European representatives. There are fears in Europe that Trump's apparent pivot to Moscow could freeze Ukraine out of the peace process entirely and end up with a deal that favours Russia. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the bloc was still committed to admitting Ukraine.
If they continue at that speed and at that quality, perhaps they could be earlier than 2030. So thank you very much for giving the impulse, and let's work hard on all sides really to keep the momentum up.
US politicians also recently ruled out granting NATO membership to Ukraine. Membership to the alliance has frequently been cited by Russian President Vladimir Putin as one of the main reasons for launching the war.
And we hope that the United States will continue support, like all the partners. All the partners do it, and we need also not to lose this unity between Europe and United States.
As fighting rages on the front line, political pressure is mounting for a coordinated European effort to secure peace.
That I think we in Europe, we need to get our act together. And in order to get an act together, you have to have a plan to the Americans. Because if you don't have a plan to the Americans, you're not going to get involved in negotiations.
Could EU accession replace NATO accession as a security guarantee for Ukraine? According to the leaders who sat in this room, yes it can and yes it should. Becoming part of the bloc could provide Ukraine with the necessary deterrence against a new Russian attack in the future, they said. But there's a catch. EU accession would always lack a key player in this game of geopolitics, the United States. Jorge Liboreiro, Euronews, Kyiv.
I walked exactly same streets of Kyiv 3 years ago in the first hours of Russia's full-scale invasion. And the atmosphere back then was completely different from the way it feels now. There was lots of shock, there was lots of frustration, and there was lots of fear. The streets here in Kyiv were empty as people were hiding and staying in the bomb shelters. Now, today in February 2025, the atmosphere is completely different. Kyiv is welcoming today 13 world leaders and the European Commission who are here to show their support to Ukraine. What has not changed is this feeling of resilience and also the feeling of determination of the Ukrainians to continue defend their country from Russia's war of aggression 3 years on. Sasha Vakulina from Kyiv for Euronews.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said Russia is ready to negotiate with both Ukraine and Europe, but that military operations would stop only when negotiations yielded a firm, sustainable result that suits Russia. He spoke at a joint press conference with Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan on the 3rd anniversary of Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Обязательным является и категорическое не вступление Украины в НАТО. Об этом должна быть четкая железобетонная договоренность. Мы на встрече в Эр-Рияде с американскими коллегами приветствовали тот факт, что президент Трамп публично и неоднократно называл линию на втаскивание Украины в НАТО ошибкой.
Lavrov claimed Russia and the US will have full-fledged consultations following recent bilateral talks and discuss the normalization of embassy operations in both Moscow and Washington.
Talks between the Christian Democratic Union, the CDU, and the Social Democrats, the SPD, are to begin within the next couple of days, CDU leader Friedrich Merz announced on Monday. Merz said that initial talks about establishing a black-red coalition have already taken place and aims for the new government to be formed by Easter, which this year falls on April the 20th. He highlighted his goal of steering Germany out of its economic crisis, particularly in light of the uncertain relationship with the US and the ongoing stagnation of Europe's largest economy. All three ample coalition leaders, Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck and former Finance Minister Christian Lindner, have signalled that they will not be playing any major political roles in the future. The voter turnout at yesterday's election was the highest in decades, despite large numbers of Germans being relatively undecided about who they would vote for until the very last minute. However, the CDU faces an uphill battle in stimulating the economy and increasing defence spending as questions about reforming the debt brake emerge. Liv Stroud in Berlin for Euronews.
Pope Francis remains in critical condition and has shown early signs of kidney insufficiency, said the Vatican on Monday. The 88-year-old pontiff is battling pneumonia and a complex lung infection, but remains alert and was able to attend Mass on Sunday. In their latest update, the Vatican said he hadn't had any more respiratory crises since Saturday night, but was still receiving high flows of supplemental oxygen. Some blood tests showed initial mild kidney failure, but doctors said it was under control. They said Francis's condition is touch and go, given his age, fragility and pre-existing lung disease, and that the main threat facing the Pope is sepsis, a serious infection of the blood that can occur as a complication of pneumonia. Meanwhile, prayers for Francis poured in from around the world over the weekend, from his native Argentina to school children in Rome.